Hey guys, ClayRepairs here. Today I'll show you how to fix a common coolant leak on 3-liter Ford Rangers, and this is all you'll need. This leak comes from a timing cover gasket, so you'll definitely need one of these timing cover gaskets along with a crank seal that we'll be replacing, which is inside a timing cover as well. You also need this gasket maker, and I just happen to get this type. You can get really any type of gasket maker. This is the type I use. Thread sealant is also nice for the water pump bolts that go into the timing cover, and also we'll use a new water pump because since we're in there, we might as well replace it. As you can see down here, we have a pretty good coolant leak. What started out as a few drips last week has turned into a pretty good sized puddle after just sitting for one day. And although that's not a ton of coolant, it's steadily getting worse and worse.
Okay, so the first thing to do is take off the air box, air filter, and intake. After the intake is out of the way, take off the belt. That way you can get a grip on the pulley to take off the fan and the fan shroud. The fan is left-hand thread, so you have to keep that in mind when taking it off. We had to use this chain tool to grip onto the pulley, that way we could get the fan off. After the fan's off, the shroud's held in by 2 bolts on top and pulls right out. Now, before we get any further, let's go ahead and drain the coolant out. The next thing we'll be doing is unbolting all the brackets from the front of the engine, including the alternator, power steering pump, idler pulley, tensioner, and AC compressor. As you can see now, the engine bay has opened up a lot. We've got the alternator out of the way, the power steering pump flipped sideways and tied up to hold it in place, and the AC compressor tied up out of the way a little bit as well. It can't move much, but any little bit helps. And now you can get an idea of where the coolant's coming from. You can see the whole side of the timing cover gasket is all wet with coolant. The next step is to take the water pump off, which isn't that hard. There's just a couple bolts into the timing cover holding the water pump on, and then you can take it off. Now we're just down to the timing cover and harmonic balancer right there, which are the 2 main things we need to take off next. The 1/2-inch impact made quick work of the pulley, taking the 4 bolts out easily. The impact also made quick work of the 1 bolt holding on the harmonic balancer. I then used the harmonic balancer puller to take it off. The last thing to do is take the bolts out of the timing cover and take the timing cover off.
Okay guys, finally we have the timing cover off. And you can see right there is where our coolant leak is. On the timing cover, you can see where that is right here. This side doesn't look too bad. That's the driver's side. And then the passenger side right here. You can see that's where our leak's coming from. So right here, I got all new gaskets for that, along with a brand new water pump right over here. And that's what we'll go ahead and put in the truck. But the next thing to do is to scrape all this old gasket material off all around the outside. You don't want to leave any of this stuff on here. Now thankfully, most of the gasket came off on the cover itself, so that'll be a lot easier to scrape all this off out on the bench here. All we have to do with the water pump is transfer this pulley over to this. Let's get to it.
Before I put everything back together, I decided I should replace the timing chain and gears while I had it apart. When installing the bolt, make sure to use some thread locker on it, that way it doesn't back out. And now you can install the timing chain cover. Make sure on both sides of the gasket to use a little bit of RTV, because in my experience you can never use too much RTV when sealing something up.
Okay guys, we've got it on there, it's all sealed up, and I torqued down the bolts a bit. Now we're going to let it sit overnight to harden up. It was a little tricky to get this thing in there, but we got it. I made sure to put plenty of sealant all over this because I do not want any leaks.
After the RTV dries, don't forget to torque down your bolts. The next thing to do is bolt up all the accessories again, such as the power steering, idler pulley, and AC compressor like it was before. Don't forget to install the lower radiator hose and heater hose when reassembling. Once you have everything in place, the next step is to put the belt on. After that, the fan and fan shroud are next, followed by the intake. Before you attempt to start the truck up, I highly recommend you change your oil because mine had lots of coolant in it and that would not have been good to run through the engine. And now, after double checking to make sure everything is in the correct place and tightened down, it's finally time to start up the truck. I let the truck warm up until operating temperature, that way it would suck the rest of the coolant in when a thermostat opened up. And with that, the truck is done. I took it outside to hose all the coolant off that is dripped out, but other than that, it's ready to drive. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss any other helpful videos like this in the future.